or delegations from Ghana used to call me the Human Rights Attorney General.
Human Rights Attorney General.
But is this because you were advising the council always about respect for human rights and to avoid rights violations?
Delegations started even before I joined the council. It was one of my conditions for accepting to serve as Attorney General, as I have elaborated in the memoranda already submitted.
Accepting to serve as that
was the genesis of my acceptance to serve, having heard from a number of good people, imams, former teachers. Very good, prominent, good religious Gambians. Were role models. Who loved me. And used to give me wise counsel.
And when you took the job, your advice against the draconian nature of these decrees and potential for rights violations that were in it was not accepted by the APRC government.
Banga jëlé nak liggéey bi nak li nga xamné yang ko doon ngaña luwaayu bon yi nga xamné tëraloon nañ ko ak yaxa jino yaxa ak yelleef fa melni dal fonku sàmmuñ ko woon. I earn the name or the label the Human Rights Attorney General.
Amon na nak ndambu di turi Human Rights Attorney General bi
because of my stand against all abuses and violations of human rights. Whether in council, or in cabinet, or as individual complaints received by me. I've given some of these. And Pacham, when I read in the Daily Observer, and on Brussels airline plane from Freetown to Accra.
Brussels airline plane Freetown jem Accra.
After his relief from office,
the
Honorable went back to the office to surrender the keys and was arrested and charged with trespass. On arrival in Accra, I telephoned the Solicitor General, Mrs. Ami Bensouda.
Solicitor General Ami Bensouda.
To take the case file from the police.
Case file police.
And on my return to Banjul, we terminated the proceedings. As there was no trespass, no any offense at all. I have said this. I've said when Dr. Peters came to me about Kenneth Best. I've said that.
Yes.
I've given that already.
Yes, in your statement.
So my stand against the abuse of human rights or the violations of fundamental human rights was not limited to council or cabinet meetings, but it was my daily life. It was my routine.
Where your advice is heeded, especially with regards to these decrees, seeing very well that they have embedded in it provisions that would enable rights violations. Did you advise against these decrees?
My advice was not limited to the decrees. It went before.
Alpha kendo koyoko.
It was my daily life. It was the anthem of my efforts.
Where your advice is heeded?
Sometimes yes. And sometimes not.
But that discouraged me, but it didn't stop me from continuing to advise.
What would you say was your record with them? Seeing these decrees, it looks very much like your advices were not heeded.
Lo wax na ci lu ñoo mëna jappé sa digënté ak ñom ndax té buñ sétlo mbiri lu way dafa melni yow li ngi leen doon digal dal toppuñ ko woon.
I have been known to have a phenomenal memory.
Yes.
But it would be difficult for me at this point to tell you from one decree to another what I advise at the time it was being considered by the council. That would not be. I cannot tell you from one decree to another what I advise, what I didn't advise, whether I advised and the advice was taken or not. No, that would be expecting too much from me at this point.
I would be shocked if you were able to do that.
We'll be shocked.
Yes, if you were able to do that.
Then I don't know why you are asking me.
No, I didn't. Perhaps maybe this is a misunderstanding. My question is, all these decrees, we have gone through them one by one. And for each of them, you have agreed that they are all bad laws. Correct?
The first one you said, I said that was a good decree. The first one you brought, Decree 11.
Yes.
Said that was a good decree. In fact, it has a genesis from the Special Criminal Courts Act.
But even Decree 11 is a terrible decree in the sense that it is so broad-based, it has no safeguards for anybody.
Now, let me make this point clear. This was a military government. The main characteristics of a military government are decrees. And I would gladly refer you to Professor Elias' article, The Legality of Illegal Regimes. That would explain the nature of decrees in a military government, be it in the Gambia or elsewhere.
No, but what I am trying to drive at Mr. Mbai here is that good governance and respect for human rights, this is not an exclusive reserve or a requirement for civilian governments. Both civilian and military governments are expected to respect rights of people. And that is why, in fact, you put it as an important condition for your acceptance of employment. Isn't that the case?
Yes.
Fantastic. So therefore, the fact that this was a military government is, in fact, no excuse to pass bad laws.
No. I'm not taking it as an excuse. I'm taking it as an explanation referring to the writings of scholars on military government. And I've given you one.
In fact,
by Professor Elias, who is one of the most respected international jurists in the world.
I know that, Mr. Mbai. But the point I am trying to make is not that military governments can make decrees or that they legislate by decrees. That is not the point I am trying to make. The point I am trying to make is that during the time of the AFPRC, they made decrees which we have examined here, and for almost all of them, we have agreed that those were bad laws.
Amna ay loi yo xamni teralul nañ ko muy decree yi te tay yep ñu ko toppa ben te liñ ko andé ñun ñep anda nañ ci ne ay loi yo xamne loi yu bon la.
I am not defending the decrees.
So can we agree therefore?
I am not defending and I am not justifying them.
Okay. So
but I was not the military council, I was not the chairman. I was an advisor. And I did advise. I did advise from my belief in human rights and the rule of law. I said so as a lawyer, as a student of the literature on military government, and as a Gambian.
And thank you very much.
And it is for these reasons that I was ready to serve based on the elaboration of my memorandum of understanding. Human rights. Not that was a guarantee. Not that that was a guarantee that human rights violation will not occur, but a pronouncement of my commitment to argue against human rights violations.
I agree with that, certainly. But the point I'm trying to make is these decrees that we enumerated and discussed are patently bad laws. Do you agree to that?
And na ci li nga wax de waaye li nga wax mooy degré yi nga xam ne wax nañ ko fii yëpp ñun ñëpp leer nañu nañ ne ay luwaa la yoo xam ne luwaa yu baaxut la ndax ànd nga ci.
Decrees everywhere, decrees in all military governments have shortcomings, serious shortcomings.
But let's limit it to these decrees.
Including these ones.
Yeah.
Including these, but not limited to them.
But these ones, we agree that they were bad laws.
Like all other military government decrees.
I don't want to extend beyond what we...
Well, I'm extending it beyond on the literature provided by a prominent advocate and jurist.
But wouldn't it be only fair that we look at those that we have examined instead of venturing into the realm of hypotheticals?
No, not hypotheticals. These are not hypotheticals. My view was a global view on the literature.
Okay. Let's narrow it down to decrees passed in Gambia by the AFPRC during the time you served as Attorney General. And we agree that these decrees we've discussed were patently bad laws.
The decrees have their deficiencies, different from acts of parliament in a civilian government. The context is different from that of a civilian state of affairs.
We agree all that, but the question is a simple one, Mr. Mbai. The decrees were bad laws. We have identified the serious shortcomings in every single one of them.
Yes.
And for each of them, you have agreed that these were bad laws.
And what do you want me to say? You've said it.
No, I want you to confirm it.
Confirm what? I have said it. You want me to confirm what?
Okay,
that's why when I ask you, do you want me to say that water is wet?
Okay, can you confirm?
That is tautologous.
Yes, can you confirm again, Mr. Mbai, that these decrees were bad laws?
I don't know what I said it. I don't know what you want. You said I said so.
But I have
you said I said so. But I said that I did advise wherever violations of human rights occurred in the decrees. You said I said so. Now, what do you want me to say more?
Okay, I want you to reaffirm it for the record. For clarity of the record.
No, I have said it. Was it vague when I said it?
Okay, I'm happy that you have confirmed it. So I would proceed now.
I don't know what you want me to confirm and reaffirm. Why? What do you want me to confirm and reaffirm?
For the purposes of the record, so there is no ambiguity.
What is in the record so far?
Well, the understanding I have...
No, what is in the record? Not your understanding, but what is in the record so far?
I can only talk of my understanding of the record, which is that we have gone through each of these decrees, and you have confirmed that indeed there were bad laws.
I did confirm?
Yes.
No, I was not being cross-examined to confirm. I was questioned as a witness, and I said.
And you said what?
No. What you said it. You said what I said.
But can you tell us again what you said?
Tell me again what I said.
But it is better that it comes from you.
No, it has come from me already. Why you want me to repeat it like a Jaliba? I will not. I think what I have said is sufficient, and we should leave it to the commission to determine. It is not your role to keep on harassing me to say it, confirm it, reconfirm it. I doubt. Mr. Chairman, I appeal to you to intervene in this matter. He has said, I have said it. Now he wants me to confirm, to reaffirm. What? If I have said it, you don't believe in me?
No, that is...
Then what do you want me to confirm and reconfirm? We've covered these decrees for the best of 2 days.
Mr. Mbai, it appears that this issue of the decrees is very inconvenient.
No.
But you would have to pardon me to ask the questions that I have to ask.
No, it is not inconvenient to me. I think you seem to be, I don't know what your point is in pursuing me this when I have made the point so clear.
But could you allow me to explain, therefore, my purpose? All I want to know is whether you had given advice against these decrees and what happened to those advice.
Man lima bëgg xam rek moy loi yi bañ ko defar ndax joxal digaloon nga leen ak digal yoyu nga leen joxoon naka lañ ko jëfoo.
I cannot tell you my advice on every decree for the period that I serve as Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Mënuma la wax lan la yedd ñi ci degree bu nekk ci jamono bi ma nekk Attorney General.
I have told you
wax naa la ne
that from the elaborated memoranda of understanding,
ci ni nga xam ne lu la feeñale ci nangatoo gi nga xam ne moom lañ sësale woon.
My efforts against human rights abuses, as indicated from Pacham to Abu Dentin to Kelet Best to Dr. Ablai Conte.
Li nga xam ne moom la feeñal ci wàllu xëtt yelleef doomu aadama mooy ci limi ñim tudd noonu.
And that as Attorney General,
tey tamit ma nekk Attorney General.
I accept responsibility.
Nangu naa nag gàddu.
But
waaye
even if
bu fekkee sax de
if I knew
bu fekkee xam naa
or experienced the abuse of human rights,
ni li wala fekk
I had always advised against it.
taaxi doomu aadama nag boo waxtu bu nekk naa ko de.
My role was to advise.
suma wàll moo nekkoon pour ma yedd.
I was not taking the decisions.
nekku moom di jël ay dogal.
No implementing the decrees.
wala di doxal degree yooyu.
No pushing people, seizing their properties or putting them into prison. Against that. That was why I was ready to serve.
moom nag ci ku dinga loolu sax moo taxoon ma nekkoon di liggéey.
I have said it.
wax naa ko.
To the best of my ability.
ci li nga xam ne daal moo ni ma suma kàttan toll.
Thank you very much. And the question that what I want to establish now is whether your advices against these decrees, considering that they all had the potential for massive human rights violations, whether these advices were accepted or rejected.
Now, in considering the decrees, you mentioned the names of people whose properties were seized. Is that not sufficient that my advice was not taken?
No, I want it to come from you. I don't want to guess it.
No. The conclusion, logical. If I had advised, yet these decrees were implemented to the extent of the violation of certain individuals, which you mentioned, obviously, it concludes that my advice was not taken. If it were, that would not have happened.
Okay. All right. So it means, therefore, your advices against these human rights violations, your advices against these decrees were not being accepted by the regime.
I can only tell you that decree by decree, what I advise, whether it was accepted or not accepted, I will not be in a position to tell you. And you said you'll be shocked to come to that conclusion. You will be shocked if I can remember, decree by decree, what I advise and whether the advice was taken or not taken. If you expect me to do that, I think that would be impossible.
The difficulty here, Mr. Mbai,
but I say globally, as Attorney General, Minister of Justice, as Chief Legal Advisor to the government, I take responsibility for the decrees. But even if I do so against my advice, because I believe that human rights are fundamental. I've said that in my statement. I've read it 3 or 4 times. Now, except if you want us to go on repeating this, you can go on repeating it. It's boring, but I don't mind.
Mr. Mbai, I think it would help quite easily if you would answer the questions more directly, because otherwise we would go around and around. The question I ask is, I don't want to assume that your advices were not accepted. On several occasions, you have said that you advised against these things, but they did not heed. They did not accept. All I was trying to do is to confirm that position in the record. And it would be easy if you could just say, yes, that is the true position, or that was not the true position, and then we would move on.
I advise against the violation and abuse of human rights.
Whether by the decrees moo xam na ci degree bi la.
or by individual members of the council.
wala sax ñi nga xam ne ñoo nekk ci council bi.
or by the chairman.
wala chairman bi.
in all circumstances.
ak lépp loo xam ne ni nu mu fa tëddee rek.
because of my commitment.
ndek suma pas-pas nag.
to human rights protection and promotion.
li nga xam ne mu ngi aju ci wàlli aar àqi doomu aadama.
whether decree or not decree.
degree wala ñàkk degree.
whether decree or bad conduct or bad action.
muy degree wala tax ay jéego yu bon wala.
my stand was always against human rights violations. Be it by the decree or be it by Yaya Jammeh's ordering for certain people to be arrested or detained. My answer has covered everything you want to know about, not only decrees, but even all other aspects.
Your answer, with all due respect, is still limited to the advice you have given. My question is, how was your advice dealt with? Obviously, with these decrees, it doesn't look like your advice was accepted.
Well, when Kenneth Best was picked up.
Let's speak to these decrees.
No, my role was beyond the decrees.
But
my role covered beyond, I'm including the decrees and other things. My role was beyond the decrees.
My question is limited to the decrees.
My answer is beyond the decrees. Includes the decrees and other bad conduct.
Okay. For now, let's limit it to the decrees. Then we would go to other bad conduct.
No, I will not limit it to the decrees. I will not limit it to the decrees because my role was beyond the decrees, far greater than the decrees.
But my question
individual actions of human rights violations was my concern.
I understand all that.
Yeah,
the question I have is, in view of these decrees, would you say that your advice about or against these decrees were accepted?
You told us here earlier that the properties of certain people were seized.
Can you answer my question more directly instead of digressing to something else?
No, I'm answering your question by referring to what you said about the decrees. You said these decrees were implemented and certain people's properties were seized. Obviously, the only logical conclusion is that if my advice was accepted, that the implementation of the seizure of properties would not have happened.
Okay, thank you very much. Good. So it means your advice was not accepted.
It means what I have just said.
Yes.
Not what you have said, but what I have said. You cannot put anything into my mouth. You cannot do that. We will try the whole day, but you will not fail. You will not succeed.
Mr. Mbai, I'm just trying to...
No, don't put words into my mouth. Keep them into yours and let me answer with my own words. Okay. Don't ask me to use your words to answer your question.
What you said, therefore, is that because these decrees were implemented in a way that violated the rights of the people, therefore your advice against them was not accepted.
No, it was you who said that the implementation of these decrees violated the rights of other people when their properties were seized.
Okay, Mr. Mbai, say what you say and I write it down.
No, I have said it already. And I think it's being recorded. I've said it already.
Mr. Mbai, we don't have the facility to immediately go back on the record. Could you tell us your position so I write it down so we can quote it verbatim?
Okay, let me just help you in that.
The question is, were your advices against these decrees accepted by the AFPRC government?
Suma laajte bi daal mooy ndigal bi nga xam ne digal loon nga AFPRC nguur ga lu aju ci wàlli luwaa yi ñu defar nii ndax sa ndigal boobu toppoon nañ ko wala déet.
This is a yes or no answer.
No, it's more than yes or no.
Waaw wala déet.
Suma tontu na dana weesu waaw wala déet.
The answer is the answer is here. And I read it out here. The answer is here.
But this is a prepared script of... my answer is, were your advices accepted or not accepted?
I told you that although I claim to have a phenomenal memory, I cannot identify one decree and an order to say what my advice was and whether my advice was accepted. I'm not in a position to be able to say that. Okay. But I have said my answer. I have given more than the answer to your question here, which I read out. And
okay. Let me take it.
Yes.
Kindly send it to me. Thank you very much.
You can go through it if you like.
Yes, I would, sir. Thank you very much.
How many pages is that? Is it 3?
Okay, paragraph 4.
Is it 3 pages?
It is 1, 2, 3 pages.
Yeah.
You've given me 2 copies.
Ah,
You want to keep one?
Yes.
Pass it.
You can have it. I have copies here.
You have copies. I'll pass it to the chair to take a look at it. Okay, on paragraph 4.
Why can't you start with 1?
No, I am looking for that which interests me, for the purposes of the questions I'm going to ask.
No, I think you should be interested in all of them, because that constitutes my answer to your question.
I want to go to the part that is at the heart of it. Mr. Chair, I am referring to paragraph 4, which states, and I quote, "My stance had always been to advise against abuses and violations of human rights. But the Attorney General, as the Chief Government Legal Advisor, takes full responsibility for the decrees/laws introduced while he is in office, even if, as in my case, I had strongly advised against all the decrees that I was aware of and considered would be in violation of fundamental human rights.
Yes.
But my advice was not always taken because the conviction of the AFPRC, especially in relation to accountability, was so strongly held at the time that nothing could have stopped them but divine intervention."
And I say all the decrees.
Yes.
So why do you limit to specific decrees, which are difficult to remember? Go on, let's go on.
No, I guess that captures what I want. But I would also read paragraph 5. It says, "The dilemma of my role as Attorney General and Minister of Justice was a challenging one. To temper, it should be, yes, to temper the desire of the soldiers for immediate redress by way of accountability against guiding them towards an orderly transition for the restoration of a democratic government with respect for the rule of law."
Yes, and then let's go to the about one paragraph. No, I want you to make a complete...
to satisfy you, Mr. Mbai, I would read that out, but really it has no direct bearing on the questions I'm going to ask, but I will do that just to show difference again.
Yes.
All right. When the soldiers overthrew...
No, the soldiers.
When the soldiers overthrew the former regime, one of their principal...
No, the last but one paragraph.
Okay, paragraph 7.
Yeah, the soldiers. The soldiers believe against better advice.
That should be in the next page.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. The soldiers believed against better advice that the decrees were the most effective way of helping them achieve their objectives.
Yes.
In fact, this particular sentence suggests that your advice against these decrees were not accepted.
Continue this paragraph.
Could you answer that question,
Continue
sir?
the paragraph. The answer is there.
But could you just answer the question?
The answer is already there. Continue reading.
They were hell-bent on running over anyone who stood in their way, and they did. Korosise and many others, including myself, and the sufferings I had gone through. So this...
No, go on, my friend.
Well, if Mr. Mbai, I don't want us to be repeating...
No, you are repeating. You are the one, you've been repeating these decrees since yesterday, and I enjoyed that. But go on, please. Just the next sentence.
Well, if it satisfies you, I would do that.
Yes.
Again, out of courtesy.
No, this is a hearing which is being watched by Gambians and outside the country.
Yes.
So I want it to be complete and fair. Just go on to the next sentence.
If by reading it, it would add to the perception of fairness, I would do so. The tragedy is that the initial intentions they had changed once they tested.
The initial intention.
They held, changed once they tasted power, and they became insatiable, and their objectives changed for the worst.
Yes. And then?
Going through the decrees one after the other would therefore not assist, given that I have already stated clearly that I had strongly advised against abuses and human rights and violation of human rights in cabinet and council throughout the short period I was the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Yes.
Taking all this in total, really, it means your advices against these decrees and against human rights violations were not accepted. We are not.
That's the conclusion of what I have said.
Yes.
So what more do you want me to say?
But do you confirm that that is the conclusion to be drawn here?
You said I have said it, and you've accepted it.
Well, maybe this time around I would ask the chair to help intervene.
Maybe you don't want it. You want what I have said in writing and have read it orally.
I want you to confirm this conclusion, that from here, what you are saying is that your advice was not being accepted. Could you confirm that? That is very easy and a legitimate question.
Is this not my statement?
Okay. If it is your statement, confirm it, Mr. Mbai.
How do you want me to confirm it?
By saying yes, that is the conclusion to be drawn. My advices were not accepted.
What have I said?
You tell us.
You read it.
Mr. Chair, I think we're just going around.
And then I refer you to the last paragraph of my statement.
Oh, okay. Let me read out. Let me go back to the last paragraph of the statement.
Not what the main statement.
Yes, okay.
Paragraph.
Last paragraph.
Council, you guys, you don't need to go through that. You asked your question, and the witness is given his answer. It's all part of the record. Shall we proceed?
Yes, but Mr. Chair, I want greater clarity. I don't want this to be...
Greater clarity? Maybe
Yes.
clarity. There's no greater clarity. There's really not clear or clear.
Okay.
Greater clarity?
But Mr. Chair,
let's
my
go to
frustration is my learned senior would say one thing. If I ask him to confirm that, he would not confirm it.
I don't know what you want me to confirm what I have said in my statement.
Yes.
But I have said it.
Okay.
The last paragraph in the statement,
Okay.
the main statement.
Could you read it out yourself?
Finally, I'm aware that it is being said that I was the person who drafted most of the draconian decrees used by the AFPRC to oppress the people.
But again, we are going to something that is not the subject of this discussion. We have accepted that you did not physically draft decrees.
Let me finish the paragraph. I want to make it very clear for the record that I did not draft any one of those decrees. And where issues relating to decrees arose, I always made it a point to advise against abuses and violations of human rights.
Always.
For the interest of the nation, I did my best efforts to guide the AFPRC, but such efforts were frustrated early on when they realized that the good deeds I was trying to achieve for the nation were against their personal interests, in particular self-perpetuation. I accept, even at the beginning, they genuinely did hold the good intention for the nation. This did not last long, and as such, I also did not last long with them. I don't know what more
It's
you want.
beautifully written.
What do you mean beautifully written? Beautifully written, not the beauty, but the fact of it.
And Mr. Mbai, we are not disputing that. I told you very early on that we accept that you did not physically draft these decrees. You have explained that in the Attorney General's chambers, there's a drafting department that produces decrees. All that have been accepted.
And I say where issues relating to decrees arose, I always made it a point to advise against abuses and violations of human rights.
Exactly.
For the interest of the nation, I did my best to guide the AFPRC, but such efforts were frustrated early on when they realized that the good deeds I was trying to achieve for the nation were against their personal interests, in particular self-perpetuation.
Okay.
I accept, even if at the beginning they genuinely did hold good intention for the nation. This did not last long, and as such, I also did not last long with them.
Yes. So, in fact, in about 4 separate paragraphs, you expressing frustration, suggesting that your advices were not accepted.
I have expressed it in these 4 paragraphs, as extensively, as adequately, and as intensively as I am able to do.
That your advice
there is no need for me to say one word more about this decrease. I have already said them in different paragraphs in all these statements.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to highlight paragraph 3. Paragraph 4, rather, where he says, I had strongly advised against all the decrees that I was aware of and considered would be in violation of fundamental human rights, but my advice was not always taken because of the conviction of the ASPRC, especially in relation to accountability, was so strongly held at the time that nothing could have stopped them bar divine intervention. I also highlight paragraph 5, the dilemma of my role as Attorney General and Minister of Justice was a challenging one. I also highlight paragraph 7. Naturally, the soldiers had mapped out their own way of how to address some of the fundamental issues that had affected effective and sustainable national development at the time. The decrease can perhaps be examined in that context. The soldiers and the people at large wanted accountability of state resources. Accountability is an element of respect for human rights. The soldiers had mapped out. And then the last paragraph is the soldiers believed against better advice that the decrees were the most effective way of helping them achieve their objectives. From all this, Mr. Chair, it's crystal clear that Mr. Mbai's advices against these decrees and human rights violations were not being heeded by the AFPRC junta. Is that conclusion correct, Mr. Mbai?
Let the Commission make their conclusion.
No, the Commission wants your own perspective, your own position from what you have said.
I have said it more than adequately.
Okay.
And I think the chairman has just said, I have answered this, we should proceed.
Okay.
I think the chairman said that before we went into these things. I've said what I have said about the decrease. And I think we should leave it to the Commission to come to their own conclusion.
Mr. Mbai, with all due respect, you are my senior by almost 40, if not 50 years. Mm-hmm. So I have the greatest respect for your counsel. But I have my case as counsel.
Yes.
And I would crave your indulgence to allow me to conduct my case, with all due respect.
Yes, but at the same time, I'm a witness. I'm not being cross-examined by you. You are examining me to produce the facts, but not cross-examining me. If you were to cross-examine him, I'd be entitled to a solicitor by my side. Yeah. I'm a witness of fact.
Yes.
You don't cross-examine me. You examine me for the facts. But you are taking the attitude of a cross-examiner. And that is my reservation with your approach.
Mr. Mbai, I don't want to enter into the discussion as to the appropriate rules of procedure. But you know much more than I do that a commission of inquiry is the master of its own rules of procedure.
Yes.
And therefore can devise its rules to suit its occasion. The only important thing is to respect the rights of the people who appear before it. And I don't think that there is anything here to suggest that your rights are being violated. No. But I want to move on.
I didn't say that.
Exactly.
They have their own rules.
Yes.
I've read the TRC Act. I've not seen any rules attached to it.
Well, there are provisional rules of procedure. But anyway.
Have they been published?
Yes. But anyway,
I have read the act, and I volunteered. I volunteered to come here and give my experience of what happened.
But does that mean that you should not answer questions? In fact, Mr. Mbai, if we are to apply the act strictly speaking, it is an offense, really, to refuse to answer a question asked by the Commission.
No, I've not refused to answer any question.
Well,
I've not refused. But
let's not get into that.
Okay. The chairman has said that we proceed.
Mr. Mbai, I hate having to argue with you, and especially when it is on a point that is of not great significance.
Thank you.
All I am trying to establish is to ascertain from your writing. I have cited the paragraphs where you said all your advice was not heeded. Yeah. You have lamented the fact that you had advised against human rights violations, but nothing barring divine intervention could change these people. In this document, you are expressing great frustration that these people would not listen to your advice against human rights violation. I just wanted you to confirm that, and that is quite easy to do.
It is my statement.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I would want not only what you have, but the paragraphs from 1 to the last to be considered inclusively.
All of them would be considered.
Not only the one you have highlighted, but all of them.
Word for word, everything would be considered.
Thank you.
Could I ask the OB van to play an audio recording for me? But before that, Mr. Mbai, do you recall making an interview with Elizabeth Oheni of BBC?
Yes. Yes.
BBC.
If you hear that interview, would you be able to remember it, to recall it? I only have a snippet of it. Maybe you would have the original recording, but I'd ask the OV van to play what we have. Yes, all right.
And then Fafa Mbai, a respected and successful lawyer who had at one time served in the Jawara government. He is now the Attorney General. I asked him how easy it has been to operate under the military.
My emphasis is that basic human rights must be observed.
Are you ready, Mr. Mbai?
And that the rule of law must prevail. This is more difficult.
Who had at one time served in the Jawara.
Yes.
May I ask? May I ask that it be played?
That it be played.
Yes, the recording. OB Van, please play the recording.
And then Fafa Mbai, a respected and successful lawyer who had at one time served in the Jawara government. He is now the Attorney General. I asked him how easy it has been to operate under the military.
My emphasis is that basic human rights must be observed and that the rule of law must prevail. This is more difficult for an Attorney General to insist upon in a military setup. Although I am pleased to say that
the technicians communicate with the OB van to let us know what is the problem.
Your mic, lead counsel.
By any chance have the recording?
I'm not sure. What I do have, I've already referred to it, page 25 of my statement. paragraph 35. The paragraph may have changed because I made some corrections. BBC focus on Africa.
Yes.
The pages must have changed.
Yes, I have that here.
Yeah,
page 22.
I said, in December 1994, I led an official delegation with the Minister of Tourism to London to persuade the British government to revise the travel advice to their citizens already in or intending to come to the Gambia as tourists. On the BBC Focus on Africa program with Robin White, on 20 December 1994 in London, I declared in answer to a question quite clearly that I was not serving Captain Jammeh. I was not serving the military council. I was serving my country. I should be grateful to the Commission to listen to a recording of that interview, and that is this one.
The Commission would listen to it. I am not sure whether we are talking about the same interview, all right? And I'm not even sure whether the recording I have is the full extent of the interview.
And then Fafa Mbai, a respected and successful lawyer who had at one time served in the Jawara government. He is now the Attorney General. I asked him how easy it has been to operate under the military.
My emphasis is that basic human rights must be observed and that the rule of law must prevail. This is more difficult for an Attorney General to insist upon in a military setup. Although I am pleased to say that the military setup is different from what it might be in many other places. We have a system of government, a cabinet government, where 5 of the members are military officers and 10 are civilians.
But how much weight does your voice carry in terms of this is the law, this is how you have to do it, as compared with the military who would say this is what we want to do, this is what we came to do?
I think from the beginning it was one of my conditions for accepting the offer was that my advice must be respected. And this has been the case. What I found more difficult, although the problem is not as it used to be, to develop a culture of consultation, being consulted before things are done. And that is now that's the case now. Now I'm being consulted before every act which may have legal implications is done.
You've been used to voting all your life. You certainly would like to know when you're returning to a democratically elected government.
So that's it. That's it. So, Mr. Mbai, do you recall this interview?
Yes.
And in that interview, you seem to have stated that your advice was being accepted.
No, I did not seem to. I stated what the interview just said.
Hold on a second. First, can you confirm that that was you being interviewed? That was your voice?
Yes, that was my voice.
Yeah, he did confirm that. Thank
yes,
you,
indeed.
Mr. Chair. But in the interview, you said your advice was being accepted.
Ci interview bi da nga wax ne li nga leen doon digal de ñu ko doon naan.
And before this commission, with all these things I have read, your position seems to have been the direct opposite, that your advice was not being accepted.
Commission bi nag moom liñ fi feeñal mooy ne li nga leen doon digal duñ ko doon toppa.
My position is not different.
Suma taxawaay de utewut ak li ma wax.
The interview.
Li ma wax na ci interview boobu.
The interview, you clearly said your advice was being accepted.
Ci interview bi de wax nga fa lu leer ne looloon doon digal dañ ko doon toppa.
Referring to consulting the people, and that was the National Consultative Committee.
Loolu mooy lu jumal ci nit ñi.
Let's listen to it again. I think you said 2 important things. One is your advice being accepted, the issue of consultation between the military rulers and yourself.
But the interview did say my advice on the decrees. He said my advice, not on the decrees.
I mean, Mr.
Oh, yes.
It's about human rights.
Yeah.
It was about human rights. Let's listen to it again.
Human rights was not limited to the decrees.
Let's listen to it again.
Human rights was my anthem in my life throughout.
No, I agree with that, Mr. Mbai.
So that does not limit this the advice only to decrease.
I agree
Decrease
with that.
were never mentioned in that.
I agree with that.
Okay,
It's about human rights violations.
Yes, and that was what I was doing. I say in cabinet, in council, in my daily life with Dr. Peters, with Mr. Bawada.
Let's hear. Obi-Wan, could you play it again, please?
And then Fafa Mbai, a respected and successful lawyer who had at one time served in the Jawara government. He is now the Attorney General. I asked him how easy it has been to operate under the military.
My emphasis is that basic human rights must be observed and that the rule of law must prevail. This is more difficult for an Attorney General to insist upon in a military setup. Although I am pleased to say that the military setup is different from what it might be in many other places. We have a system of government, a cabinet government, where 5 of the members are military officers and 10 are civilians.
But how much weight does your voice carry in terms of this is the law, this is how you have to do it, as compared with the military who would say this is what we want to do, this is what we came to do?
I think from the beginning it was one of my conditions for accepting the offer was that my advice must be respected. And this has been the case. What I found more difficult, although the problem is not as it used to be, to develop a culture of consultation, being consulted before things are done, and that is now that's the case now. Now I'm being consulted before every act which may have legal implications is done.
You've been used to voting all your life. You certainly would like to know when.
Thank you. So it said my advice must be accepted, and this is the case.
Li nga wax ci interview boobu mooy ne danga ne li nga leen a digal nag foog ñu nangu ko te loolu fi mu nekk nii mooy liy dox.
That I should be consulted.
No, it is two different things, Mr. Mbai.
But I shared that.
The first is my advice must be accepted, and this is the case. The more difficult thing at the beginning was the issue of consultation, but now I am being consulted. That's what you said. So these are two separate things. The one is the advice, the other is the consultation before decisions. Let's focus on the advice. On the issue of the advice, your position was that your advice was being accepted.
Yes.
But in here, you are telling us that your advice was not being accepted. You said, in fact, it would take divine intervention.
Read it, but don't say it would take divine intervention.
You said, I had strongly advised against all the decrees that I was aware of and considered would be in violation of fundamental human rights. But my advice was not always taken because the conviction of the AFPRC, especially in relation to accountability, was so strongly held at the time that nothing could have stopped them, but divine intervention.
Yes, I maintain that. I maintain that my advice was taken. But my advice, I didn't say to all the decrees. I didn't say that. If that was to be the show, I would be the dictator.
But here...
If it were that my advice must be taken.
But that's what you said to Elizabeth.
Yeah, but not, I didn't say to the decrees. I say on human rights violations.
But if your advice must be taken, it does not matter whether it is decrees or it is human rights violation.
Yeah, but that cannot be dictatorial. I was an advisor, not a decision maker.
What I am trying to show...
They could take my advice and not do it. They could accept my advice and not do it.
But that means they did not take your advice.
Yes, take and accept, that's the difference now.
But take means accept in this context, wouldn't it?
Take, say, accept my advice.
And taking the advice are basically one and the same.
They can accept, yes, we accept your advice, we'll do that, and then do a different thing.
But in that case, it means they did not accept it.
They accepted my advice, but did not take it.
Isn't that a contradiction in terms, Mr.
No,
Mbai?
not in my English language.
Well, you are certainly much more eloquent than me,
No.
but I can assure you that my interpretation in this case is spot on.
Now,
accepting it and taking it are one and the same.
now let me give a scenario. You may have your mate or your driver, and instruct your driver, at 5 o'clock, you go to the TRRC and collect my wife. Yes, boss, I'll do that. And then he does something else. That is accepting the advice and taking.
But that is not accepting the advice.
No. But to you who say, yes, boss, I'll do that. What time do you want me to go? 5 o'clock, you must be there to collect the madam.
But accepting it is not saying it. Accepting it is doing it. Isn't that the case?
I've given a scenario. You can
Okay.
accept and not do it.
Can we agree to leave it to the commission? Because
Yes.
I would not wish to argue with my learned senior.
Thank you.
On these issues. I don't want to be in a situation where I may have to ask questions that would ruffle feathers. Or I don't want to cross the line because of the respect that I must give you. But quite clearly here, you said I had strongly advised against all, and I underlined all, against all the decrees that I was aware of.
Yes.
Considered would be in violation of fundamental rights.
Yes, but in the interview, I didn't say that all my advice on the decrees against violations of human rights were accepted.
But you gave a categorical statement. My advice must be accepted.
Yes.
And this was the case.
My advice was accepted in certain situations, but I didn't say to all the decrees.
The thing is, Mr. Mbai, the situation was not as rosy as was described in that interview. It was, in fact, much more frustrating. And what you state in here perhaps more reflect what happened than what you said in that interview at that time. No. Is that correct?
In the interview, I didn't limit myself. I didn't refer to decrees. I referred to advice. Not advice that all decrees so and so. I referred to advice, and I've been giving advice generally to the council, to cabinet, to individual members of like Yaya Jammeh, to Sana Sabali, when the ministers were detained, to Sadibu Haidara. I've said it all.
Mr. Mbai, both statements really are about advice. Yes. The first one is my advice must be accepted, and this is the case, meaning that your advice was being accepted. Here you're telling the commission that your advice was not taken because the conviction of the AFPRC in relation to accountability was so strongly held that at the time that nothing could have stopped them bar divine intervention.
But is that the beginning of the
decrees can perhaps be examined? No, I started reading out from the middle.
No, read it all. No, read it all. You must.
May we agree that we leave this to the commission to assess and make whatever conclusions they can draw from this.
Yes, I had said that before, and even the chairman said we should proceed.
Yes, Mr. Mbai. I think I should have heeded that advice.
Yeah.
Seeing that it is coming from my elders of much superior wisdom, and I should have heeded. My apologies. So the commission would juxtapose these two statements and determine what to make out of it.
Advice on all decrees. The advice was more than on decrees. That's the difference.
And I agree with that.
The advice was more than on decrees. The advice was on the aspect of the violation of human rights. And that was not limited to decrees. That was much wider than the decrees. In the interview, in the interview, reference to decrees was not made. In my statement, reference to decrees was made because you particularly we are referring to decrees. We are not enlarging it to advice, as was my daily routine. Because we are discussing decrees, that's why but in the interview it was advice. In the statement, it was according to your questioning about the decrees. That's the difference between specifically mentioning the decrees and leaving it open on my advice on human rights violations. May I also, according to my...
Yes, you want to play that one?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know whether I've got it right, but somebody will help.
Perhaps maybe...
What exactly are you trying to achieve?
Yes.
We are
the speaker, the microphone. Huh?
Oh, yeah. I'm a left rewind. Rewind. Rewind, you're back.
Okay.
They don't like me? They don't like the government.
About 1 year or 2 years, that is appointee me.
Gomez. 2 Gambian ministers are in London this week for talks.
No, not the whole.
In its column, From a Distance. South African President Nelson Mandela is only 8 months into his first term of office. But according to an article in the Nigerian Daily Times, he is already thinking of his exit, much unlike many of his African counterparts. The paper cites an interview published in London in which Mandela spoke about his possible candidacy at the 1999 election.
I am the servant of the people. I will continue for as long as they want me to. But I must add that I'm 76. I don't think at the end of the next 5 years, a man of my age would like to continue to lead the country.
In the interview, President Mandela also dismissed criticisms that his government is delivering social reforms too slowly for the country's black majority.
I don't think that this is criticism to be taken seriously. We had to allay the fears of whites to ensure that the transition process took place smoothly. If we hadn't done so, the civil war that was threatening would have broken out.
And assessing his government's performance so far, the paper quotes Mandela as saying,
"The progress has been fantastic. We've introduced a culture of human rights, of transparency and accountability."
The Daily Times of Nigeria.
The press review is by Victoria Gomez. 2 Gambian ministers are in London this week for talks. The delegation is trying to persuade the British government to reverse its advice to tourists not to travel to Gambia. Since the coup in July, which overthrew Sir Dawda Jawara, the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, led by Captain Jammeh, has been under pressure from European governments to announce an early return to civilian rule, particularly from Britain, where Sir Dawda now lives. And several countries have cut aid to Gambia because of the army's decision to stay in power for another 4 years. Earlier tonight, the Justice Minister, Fafa Mbai, came into our studio, and Robin White asked him if his delegation had made any progress.
Yes, we had a very open and sincere meeting with the Right Honourable the Baroness Linda Choka yesterday.
The Minister for Overseas Development.
Minister for Overseas Development. A meeting which went on between 11:30 in the morning and 1:15. I think there are indications that we have made our point clear.
What were you asking of her?
Well, I think it was a meeting to start talking, because there has not been any such meeting at that level since the military took over in July '94.
Did she give you any assurances at all that she would encourage tourists to go in the future?
Yeah, I think in the new year, after the conclusion of the National Consultative Committee meetings, in which the timetable is being reviewed and recommendations will be made to the council. I think she is basing a lot of hope on the outcome of the committee's proceedings.
Did she tell you what she would like that outcome to be?
Well, she has made it clear that she hopes the timetable will be shortened.
To what?
Well, we've not come to any conclusion on that because that is now an open debate in the Gambia.
Yeah, but what does she want?
Well, she thinks the timetable could be shortened.
To what, 1 year?
No, we are not thinking about 1 year or 2 years. That is a point she made. We've not come to any conclusion as to how long it will take, no.
So you're going to make no progress, basically, with the British government until you publish your new timetable?
That seems to be the indication we have from the Right Honourable Linda Choka, yes.
Can you survive that long?
Well, the committee is given 21 days to come up with its recommendation, and it started on the 14th of December. We hope by the 6th or 7th of January they would come up with their recommendations.
Have you any idea what that recommendation might be?
I can't tell. The matter is being thrown to the Gambian public and will go by their wishes.
But would you imagine that it'll come down to less than 4 years?
Well, if they, let me put it this way. If they say more than 4 years, that is likely to be rejected. More than 4 years will be rejected.
There has been a suggestion, and I think it's come from Sir Dawda Jawara himself, that one way out of this mess would be for him to return to Gambia very temporarily so that constitutionality can, come about once again, and he would guarantee that he would only stay for a very short period until there would be fresher elections. Now, would you consider that kind of deal?
I think I'll disagree with your basis when you say one way around this mess. There is no mess. There is a cleaning up of a past mess, but there is no mess as we are facing. And the proposal by Sir Dawda, interesting as it is, I think will be unacceptable.
Why?
Because Sir Dawda stayed in power for 30 years, and his system of government, admirable as it was wiped out in three hours in broad daylight. Now, if it was as good as it was, it would not have been wiped out in such a short period of time.
Yeah, but maybe if you were to do what Sir Dawda suggests, then, all aid would be resumed immediately, tourists would flood back into the country, and everything would be fine.
Well, our interest is more than tourists coming to the country. Our interest is more than foreign aid coming to the country. Our interest is the welfare of the Gambian people. That is the basis of this new government.
I'm sure you must be aware that, we get letters every day from people in the Gambia saying they don't like you.
That they don't like me?
No, don't like the government, the current setup.
Yeah, maybe those Gambians in exile?
No, these are Gambians in Gambia.
Well, if you come to the Gambia and come to some of our meetings, I think you will change your mind about that impression being given. I think it is nothing, I am sure, and I am aware of this. The new government is very popular.
Why do so many Gambians write to us complaining and saying that this new government already has its hands in the till?
Well, I don't agree with those Gambians. I think if you receive as many letters, you receive twice, 3 times more letters appreciating the direction now being taken by this new government.
We receive some saying that, but the majority say this government is no good and already they've got their hands in the till.
Well, I don't agree. I think there is good reason for saying that there is time for change. We don't want any other Gambian leader to stay in for 30 years.
Yes, but answer the question now. Do people in this government already have their hand in the till?
No, I disagree with that.
Haven't they awarded themselves pay increases?
No, that is not true.
That's not true.
That is not true. The chairman's salary is $10,000 a year, a month, which is less than £600. The head of state salary is $10,000 a month, which is less than £600. Now, I think some of your least paid workers in the railways receive more than that.
Okay, so what is your program now? How do you see the next month, next year or so?
Well,
what exactly are you trying to achieve?
We have started the cleansing exercise. We have 5 commissions of inquiry now going on. Well, of course, there's a late start in this because you have to rely on Ghana and Nigeria and Sierra Leone to provide us the necessary judges and the lawyers to assist the commissions. We have a commission of inquiry looking into the assets and properties of public officers of a particular category. We have a commission of inquiry looking into the operations of the revenue departments. Now, we have from World Bank reports, from reports prepared by Your Majesty's, Her Majesty's Customs, that evasion of customs duty amount to $85 million is a year in the Gambia. Now, that for a country of about 1 million people.
Are you trying to get this money back, or are you trying to lock people up?
No, we are not trying to lock anybody up, because the fact that we brought foreign judges to look into this speaks for our respect for the rule of law.
But are you trying to get the money back?
Of course, we are trying to get back all unlawfully acquired money, either by corruption or other illegal means.
This Captain Jammeh, what kind of man is he? Is he the kind of man who's going to hang around forever and keep promising he's going to go? Or
No.
does he have a mission which he's going to complete and then go?
Yes, I think Captain Jammeh's mission is to clean up the mess that had been created and perpetuated for over 30 years.
Have you been to see Sadauda Jawara here?
No, I have not been to see him.
Why not?
Well, my stay is very short, and my program is very, very active. I don't think I need to see him. I have the greatest respect for him. I have served under him before as Attorney General since 1982. In fact, I have had the pride of saying this, that every time my country goes into some trouble, they invite me, and when the mess is out, declared, they kick me out. That happened to me before, and I hope I don't stay long enough that the problems we are facing are admirably dealt with. This is my commitment. I'm not serving Captain Jammeh. I'm not serving the military council. I am serving my country.
Gambia's Justice Minister, Fafa Mbai. Now it's time for a look at Africa's financial scene, particularly in Angola, where war has...
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbai. That was a very good interview. But I have a few questions.
Mr. Mbai, interview bu baax la waaye dafa am lu ma la ci bëgg a laaj nag.
In all honesty, and in retrospect, in hindsight, do these decrees really reflect a respect for rule of law?
Ci orma nag ndax mën nga ñoo wax ndax décret yi loi yi ndax fonk na li nga xam ne moo di loi bi.
Do they reflect our respect for the rule of law?
Ndax ci loi yi feeñal nañ fi ne ñun fonk nañ li nga xam ne moo di doxalini loi.
These decrees were the laws of the state at that time.
That does not answer my question. That does not answer my question. The question is, we know these were the laws of the land. The question is whether these decrees reflect respect for the rule of law.
These decrees provided that there will be a commission of inquiry.
Can you answer the question, sir?
That leads to observance of the rule of law. These decrees refer to the setting up of commissions of inquiry.
Well, Mr. Mbai, we have gone through each of these decrees, and all of them was seriously criticized for being very bad law. They do not respect the rule of law.
These were the laws.
In fact, in Nazi Germany, it was the law that they should go after the Jews and execute them. But were those laws in observance of the rule of law? Were those laws just laws? They were not.
That is an attempt of an analogy which is incorrect. The analogy of executing Jews. The analogy of setting
but that was the law.
Yeah, I'm saying the law of executing Jews and the law of setting up commissions of inquiry are far different and apart.
But the standard is the justness of these laws. That is the point that I am after. We know these were the laws of the land, but were these laws a reflection of respect for the rule of law?
I'm not defending the decrees.
But you defended them in your interview.
Yes.
Because you said
yes,
those things were established
yes, to set
and to demonstrate our respect for rule of law. Yes. But here you are telling us that these decrees...
No. I don't say to demonstrate, I said...
To show our respect for the rule of law.
No, I said we are inviting foreign judges and lawyers
Mr.
to head this commission in our respect for the rule of law. You can listen to it.
Yes, but I did not manufacture this.
No, I said you listen to the interview with Elizabeth Ohene twice. Let's listen to this again.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Mbai, I would assure you that in there you did say that we have set up these commissions of inquiry to show our respect for the rule of law.
No, we have set up our commissions of inquiry and have invited foreign judges and lawyers.
You have also said that, but are you disputing that you said it shows our respect for the rule of law?
Even if I said so,
But are you disputing that you said so?
I would rather listen to it again.
But I am saying to you, sir, with all due respect, that you said that you set up these commissions of inquiry to show our respect for the rule of law. Yes. And I am putting it to you, sir, with all due respect, that these decrees are hardly a reflection of the respect for the rule of law. What do you say to that?
I don't agree.
So don't you agree with? That you did not say so, or that these decrees are in fact a true reflection of the rule of law?
These decrees were the laws at the time.
But were they just laws?
They are good laws and bad laws, but they were the laws.
But were they just and good laws, these decrees?
That's a matter of interpretation. No, that's a matter of opinion.
Well, you are a very seasoned and one of the most senior lawyers in this country. We respect your counsel.
Yes.
Tell us, Mr. Mbai, you are guiding us for posterity. Yes. Is this the standard for good law in our country?
It is not the standard of laws in a civilian government.
But for any government, be it civilian, military, or mixed, would this be the standard for good law in any society?
It could be the standard of laws for a military government.
But you're not answering my question.
Well, I'm striking the difference.
My question is, would this be the standard for good law in any society?
Now, as you use the Jews, is capital punishment a good law?
I don't think it is good law.
Good.
I don't think it is good law.
Good. So, if these decrees violate human rights, then they are not good laws. Because
exactly. And these decrees violate human rights.
Then they are not good laws.
But then in your interview, you said that these laws reflect our respect for rule of law.
And what? Let's listen to it again.
Okay, let's listen to it again.
Just before you play it again, when was that interview, Dr. Mbai? What date?
20 December 1994. 20 December 1994.
20 December. And by that time, Council, can you tell me which decrees were adopted?
I can tell you up to decree
29. So while the interview was on, these decrees were being adopted in the Gambia. Is that correct?
Yes, a lot of them were already, a lot of